Hi all, welcome back to Labbing It. In this video, we are going to create a Veeam tape backup job, which will include creating a standard media pool. So that's a pool of uh, tapes and media sets that's going to be used for our tape backup jobs, and we'll obviously create the tape backup job itself. So this is on the back of our previous video where we created a virtual tape library using a software product called QuadStore, which we installed on an Ubuntu server, and we presented that virtual tape library to the VBR server through an iSCSI connection. So all the drivers for the tape library and the tape drives are now installed on our VBR server, and we added the tape server role to our VBR server as well. So it's now picking up um, our HP tape library and associated tape drives, as well as some media. So we've got about 10 tapes in our media. So let's jump in and create a Veeam backup job. Okay, so we're going to create a standard media pool. So there are a couple of options when creating media. Okay, so we're going to create a standard media pool. Um, we have a couple of options. So we have a media pool option and a GFS media pool option. GFS really is for we'll do a GFS in another video, but basically GFS is great for the sort of the long-term archival of your tapes and having Veeam managing the retention period. So if you're interested in having tapes that are kept for dailies, weeklies, monthlies, quarterlies, yearlies, and so forth, use the GFS media pool tape. It's a much better option. Um, Generally, more elaborate sort of backup environments might use a GFS media pool. In our case, we're just going to use a standard media pool where we will be just performing, a standard rotation of tapes in and out um, for our backup jobs. Also, there's an option here for the write once read many. So that's a great option if you want to set up a media pool for one-time writes. Basically, use that again for sort of like archival purposes, where you know that once you do a backup to tape, that you're not going to actually ever overwrite that tape again. I think there's some caveats around that. I think you need compatible tape library or tape drives and tapes to work with Worm. I know that the virtual tape library from QuadStar does have that option or feature to mark a tape for Worm purposes. I think if we look back in here and if we were to add a cartridge, we have an option here to tick this box. So it'll be a write once, read many options. For now, though, we'll create a standard media pool for our backup environment. So we'll go add media pool and standard. So we are presented to give a name to this media pool. So I'm just going to call this the standard media pool and go next. A couple of options here. We just obviously assign a tape library to this media pool, so we only have one. So we'll use the HP MSL G3. Here we've got two options, either to assign specific tapes to our media pool, which we can use with the add function. We don't have anything to assign yet because there's no tapes in an applicable media pool as such. They're in the unrecognized at the moment, so we need to move those into the free media pool shortly. But yeah, that's if you just want to dedicate specific tapes to this media pool. For me, I like this option here, just to add tapes from the free media pool when required. So essentially, when a backup job runs, if a new tape is required based on maybe the media set options that we've configured, then it will just go and pull a tape from the free media pool and away it will go. So I'm happy with this option, and we'll click next. So here we have media sets. The first thing we need to apply is a name. I'm usually happy with the standard or the default variables that are given here by ID and the date. And then the next options are just around how we want to manage the media sets. Three options. They're quite simple in nature. We can create one media set that's continuous. Essentially, we'll only ever have one media set. This is a great option if you have a tape library in which you don't take the tapes out. They just stay in the tape library and just get rotated through and reused on a regular basis. If that be the case, then you might go with a continuous media set. The other positive to that is that you will generally use all capacity on all tapes for every backup run. So what I'm saying there is, if you've got a backup job, for instance, that is say 150 gig, and you've got 100 gig tapes, so when you run a backup job, you use 1.5 tapes, so you're leaving 50 gig on the second tape free. When the next backup job runs, then essentially that will the tape job will use the 50 gig remaining on that second tape for the new backup job. So we effectively not wasting any storage on our, or any capacity on our tapes. So it's the more efficient use of our tapes, but generally that means you probably need to keep your tapes within the library. The second option, which is I think is the most commonly used option, is basically a new media set will be created at each backup session. So where in this option, using the continuous media set, we're utilizing all that storage capacity on every tape where possible. We don't do that with a new media set. So every time we start a new media set, we use a brand new tape. So we pull a tape from the free media pool, and we effectively start a new backup session. It's probably it's more commonly used because you probably end up taking these tapes off site, and then if you need to retrieve any specific data, you just need to identify the correct media set that you need to restore from, and then you can just go to wherever you're storing your tapes and grab the exact tapes that you need, and then you can just do a data retrieval, nice and simple. And then the last option, daily at a particular time. So you specify the day and time, and essentially a new media set will be created at that point. I've only seen this kind of used perhaps if maybe you only send maybe you send your tapes offsite on a weekly basis. So perhaps you want to create a media set for a whole week, then create a new media set for a new week, and then the previous week you just grab the tapes and you um, take them to wherever it is you might store your tapes. So it's pretty simple. This create new media set for every backup session is the most commonly used that I've seen, and that's what we're going to use in our lab. So we'll click next. So now we have our data retention policy. We've got three options: do not protect data. Pretty self-explanatory. Essentially, whilst we might back up data to our tape yesterday, we can overwrite that data today if required. Protecting the data for a period of time. So that's obviously probably a commonly used option for a standard media pool. Essentially, we're just saying how long do we want to protect our data for on tape. This will obviously come up to be a business decision. We might say 4 weeks. We could say 12 months, for instance. Obviously, the longer we want to protect our data for in this media pool means that we're probably going to need more tapes to cover many more backups, because we're not going to be cycling through our tapes on a regular basis. Often I just see that some organizations are just happy with 4 weeks, mainly because they're probably doing something else for backups. Maybe they're doing backup to disks or backup to cloud or something like that. And this just provides a protection for 4 weeks. That with a tape backup, essentially we've got an air gapped option. So for us in this lab, I'm just going to keep it to 7 days. So I know that based on our tapes, which are 100 gig in size, we're going to use a brand new tape every day. So we may need more than 10 tapes, even just for protecting 7 days worth of backups, or keeping our tapes protected for 7 days before they can be overwritten again. So we might have to add a few more tapes. And then the other option here is just to never overwrite data. Essentially, it's never going to overwrite any data that it already exists on a tape. It's going to utilize any free storage or any free space on a tape to conduct its backups. And if it can't find any, basically it will just alert the administrator that, hey, I need a tape with data available to do my backups. But for this one, we're going to go with protect data for 7 days. And the last option here is just the offline media tracking. This is a great feature if you want to manage your tapes when you send them off-site. Essentially, you can create a media vault, perhaps call it maybe a bank or somewhere or something if that's where you send your tapes to. And essentially, as soon as a tape um, becomes offline, it's assumed that you've taken that tape away from the library and taken it off-site and stored it in a bank, for instance. It's just a logical container. It doesn't actually do anything specific other than provide backup administrators with some information on where the tapes are stored, and also provides a little bit of information about the library, the media pool, the data written on the tapes, and the retention terms. So it's sort of a nice little added feature if you are sending your tapes offsite. I'm going to leave this unchecked for the purpose of this lab. We might look at this a little bit later down the track. And we'll go next. And the last option here is just around parallel processing and encryption settings. Encryption settings pretty straightforward. If we want to encrypt our backup jobs to tape, then obviously select this option. Definitely a important feature, especially if you're storing your tapes off-site. If they do get into the wrong hands for whatever reason, if this is encrypted, if they try to import it into another VBR server, then they're obviously going to need to decrypt the backup job, so they'll need the password. So definitely something that should be considered. The first option up here is just about how we process our jobs, so we can enable parallel processing of our tape jobs. So we'll check this box if we want to process multiple tape jobs at once. I'm only going to have the one tape job, so I'm not going to tick this option. But we could if we wanted to, and we could also say use 2, 3, 4 tape drives simultaneously if required. The other option down there is enable parallel processing of backup chains within a single tape job. That's a great option if within your backup job you have separate backup chains stored within. Then we can also parallel process those as well. But for now, I'm just going to leave this as the default settings. I'm not going to use encryption, even though I know you should. I think I've mentioned we'll look at a bit of encryption at a later time. So I'm just going to hit apply and let it do its thing and click finish. So over the left here, we now have a media pool. What I'm going to do next is just move these tapes now into the free media pool. So for the jobs that we select, for the media pool settings that we set, every time a new backup job runs, essentially a brand new tape is going to be pulled from the media pool. So I'm going to move these tapes all to the free media pool and go yes, and we'll see another. I think these are called service media pools, Veeam service media pools. So when we saw unrecognized, now we see free. These are inbuilt media pools for Veeam. We can't really manipulate them. You can't delete them or add them or anything like that. It's just based on the way that we are conducting our tape infrastructure. So now we have a free media pool, and essentially what's going to happen now when that first backup job runs, it's going to take a tape from this from the free media pool and pull it into the standard media pool. And once it's in there, it's kind of in there for life unless you change it up. So um, you don't have the option of, well, we don't have the problem of potentially using tapes across different media pools. Once it's been assigned to a media pool, then that's where effectively will stay. So that being done, our media pool is kind of the prerequisite to creating a tape job. So now we'll go ahead and create our first backup tape job. So we'll go back to the home screen and we'll go tape job and choose backup. So you can do tape jobs based on files. So in this option here, you would locate specific files on a specific Windows or Linux server to back up files or folders. But in this case, we want to create a tape backup job based on our backup to disks. And we'll call this, what could we call it? We'll just call it Melbourne tape backup job and go next. We'll select what it is that we want to back up. So we could back up data from our repositories or from backup jobs. I typically just choose the backup jobs, and then here we just select, okay, what is it that we want to back up. I'm going to just keep it simple and choose application aware backups only. So I think we've only got one virtual machine. As a matter of fact, maybe I might do. That's right. I'm going to do all of them. Doesn't matter. Put them all in there. We can create. I'm just thinking about the 1 TB of storage space that I've assigned, but we can always allocate more. That agent backup there is the big one there of 168 gigs. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll add additional tapes and additional storage if required. So we'll go next. Here we kind of select the media pool to which we want our full backups to be protected to. So we've only got one media pool that we've created, the standard media pool. We don't really need to do anything else here. There is an option here for schedule, but this is actually relating to what Veeam calls virtual full backups, and that's only required if your backup jobs are forever forward incremental, by which we never have an additional full backup job. So we're not doing any synthetic fulls or active full backups on a regular basis. All our backup jobs are doing a synthetic full backup on Saturday. So essentially we do get a full backup periodically in our backup job. So we don't need to be concerned with virtual full backups for this tape job. So I'll just click cancel and we'll go next. This one is just around incremental backups. Do we want to archive our incremental backups to tape? I'm going to say yes. So with this setting back here, it's only in relation to VBK files. This one is in relation to the VIB files, the incremental files that are created. Depending on your organization, you might only be interested in just backing up full backups on a on a regular basis, like maybe do a once a week backup or something like that. In our case, I want to do incremental, so effectively every night we'll do an incremental backup update to our media set. So I'll leave it at that and go next. A couple of sort of self-explanatory options here. We can eject our media upon tape job completion. So the in our, I guess for our lab, once a job's complete, the tape will be taken out of the tape drive and put into the library. And export current media set upon job completion. I guess if we want to take the tapes out with the current media set from the tape library and say move them to an offsite location, we can check this box, and that will ensure that the media set gets closed off and ready to go for a new media set at the next backup job run. I leave this unchecked. I'm gonna check that option though. Under the advanced options, we've just got some notifications. If we want to do some notifications specific to this job, we can actually tick this box and obviously fill out the required details. In the advanced settings, we can tick this box if we only want to process the latest full backup chain only. If there's, obviously it just says here, if there are multiple full backup chains on the disk, we'll only copy the latest. We could also got the option for compression if our hardware device is capable of, and we also have the options for scripting, performing any scripts before and after the job. I don't need to do anything here, so I'm just going to leave it as standard and go next. And then this is pretty self-explanatory here. When do we want to run the job? I'm going to run this job at a certain time. I'm going to make this say 3 a.m. every day and hit apply. And I won't run the job right now. I'm going to hit finish, and we'll run the job separately after this is complete. And there we have our Melbourne tape backup job. All right, we'll run it in a moment and we'll see how that looks from a tape perspective. Right, so let's start this backup job. And we'll just follow it a little bit in the beginning. See there, it's already loading our tape into the drive. If we go back here, let's see if we can, yeah, look at that. You can already see that it's this first tape has been loaded. So that's really good. And we've already got data going to tape now as we speak. And do we see anything? Yeah, so we've picked up a tape out of the free pool into the standard media pool, and that's now been assigned. And we assigned a 7-day retention period, so it's not until the 23rd of the 12th when this particular tape will be available for a new backup job and to overwrite the existing data. Alright, I might just time lapse this backup and we'll see how things pan out at the end. Okay, so that has now completed. It took about 40 minutes just to write all that data to tape. Um, what I noticed through the backups, it did all the VBK files first, and then it's put the tape jobs into pending mode. And once all the VBKs were completed, it rounded back in and did all the incremental backups to VIB files. Um, but it's all complete, and we used probably about 193 gig of data there. So I think we'll have a look at our tape infrastructure now, and looks like we got onto a third tape in the end. So get a bit of an update from here. Have a look. It's definitely used 2 tapes. And a little bit of a third tape. So that gives us a little bit of an idea that we're definitely going to need probably a few more tapes to round out 7 days worth of backups. Because I think essentially what's going to happen is tonight we'll get just from our normal backup jobs, we'll get another incremental update. And those incrementals will be added to tape, just incrementals only. And tomorrow, the synthetic full backups for these jobs will kick off. So we'll get a new VBK file. And what I'm certain to see is that on the next tape backup job after that, we will get a very similar tape backup job to what we've just had now. A 493, maybe 200 gigs worth of backups to tape. So it's likely we're going to need a few more. I'm going to monitor this over the next few days, and I might just append some more video to this particular video afterwards, just to see how it looks. Today's Friday. Tomorrow, Saturday was the synthetic full, and then maybe I think on Sunday morning we'll get a full tape, another full tape backup. So be interesting just to see what the tapes look like. So now we've got three used tapes, and we've got 7 free in the media pool. And if we go here back to home, so here we have our normal disk backups where we could potentially do some restores from, and we also now have our tape backups where we could potentially do some restores. And I'll create a video of some tape restores in the coming few days or in the next week or so, just so that we get a bit of an idea of what that process is. A little bit different to a standard restore from disk. So, but it's good to get the first backup to tape done. Like I said, I'll monitor. I'll append a little bit more to this video, so just stay tuned for the next few seconds, and we'll see what has happened over the Saturday and Sunday backup, and then we'll at a later stage probably build on top of this tape backup and start looking at some GFS as well. But for now, thanks very much.